All right, the next movie on our list is Mad Max: The Road Warrior. I'm stoked. This was freaking so crazy. This was a bananas movie.
Yes.
Jude, take it away.
1981. Mad Max: Road Warrior. Rated R with a runtime of 1 hour 36 minutes. This had a budget of $4.5 million. What do you think this brought in?
Oof.
And remember, the last one made 8.
Yeah. I'm going to say this made 15 million.
B?
I'm going to go higher. I'm going to say 25. 1981.
$23 million.
Nice job, buddy.
Vader wins a speedboat.
No, I went over.
How many speedboats do you have by now?
3 or 4. I'm not very good at this game.
I'm terrible at this game.
I'm always bad at like trying to figure out, 1982 money versus, today. So.
All right, what's it about?
Ready?
Yep.
Max is back with a bigger budget. And he ain't got no time for warlords. And just had a big old bowl of revenge. After his wife and child were killed, he methodically tracked down and killed all the members of the Knight Rider gang. His V8's been souped up and modified post-apocalyptic style, complete with a special doggy seat for his new pooch in the Pursuit Special. When a sneaky helicopter pilot tries to carjack Max, his burgle gets bungled by the dog's bark and bite, and Max takes him hostage. The hostage tells Max about an oil refinery being held captive by Max's kryptonite warlords. Lord Jason Voorhees and his Channing Tatum sidekick and his band of bikers live their lives 1/4 mile at a time. They've been hoarding the gasoline so they can continue to scoot around the dystopian desert, scavenging and pillaging. First of all, Max hates warlords. And second, he wants that gas for himself. So this is a real 2 birds, 1 stone situation. He watches from a distance for his chance to sneak into the town, and once inside, finds more than he bargained for. There's a chain gang community that needs a champion to liberate them from the tormenting biker gang. The stars couldn't be more aligned. Max loves destroying biker gangs and knows he's the man to emancipate the townsfolk, get himself some sweet, sweet petrol, and set his new hostage bestie up with the all-growed-up Cindy Lou Who to fly off into the nuclear fallout with. Discuss.
This movie's freaking bananas.
I love this movie.
I loved it.
It's so crazy fun and good. This is everything. The last 20 minutes of the first movie is this whole movie.
Yes.
And it's incredible.
Yes.
It's so fun.
The first movie was like, here's a rough draft. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
And then this movie was like, we took it to 11.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, like after the first movie hit, this was like the biggest budget Australian movie ever made.
Oh, sure.
And they basically said like, hey, George, we want you to make the Mad Max movie you always envisioned. He's like, give me all this money and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things where like the original movie got so much traction in the States that like an actual studio came in and gave him like millions of dollars to make this. And this was America's really the first introduction to Mel Gibson. And basically with this movie, they called it The Road Warrior. Everywhere else it's called Mad Max 2, but they called it The Road Warrior because like the release of the first movie was so limited in the States that they were thinking that nobody knew that there was an other Mad Max. And so they renamed it The Road Warrior so to make it so that people didn't have to have seen the first one in order to understand what was going on in this one.
But for those who did, we knew where that leg brace came from. And we were like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing that's cool about this movie is that the first couple minutes, they just set it up because they know nobody watched that first movie.
The opening.
And they insert clips from
the
Mad
original
Max
movie, yeah.
and they just tell you what's going on. It's like, hey, man, the world sucks. Some shit happened, and now we're all fighting over gas with a roving desert.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And they also
gangs
use an
and-
interesting framing device where like there's a narrator who's basically talking at the beginning and end of this movie that's not Max.
Nope.
And he's kind of just talking about
It's
Max.
the feral kid.
Yeah.
The feral kid is the narrator.
That's revealed.
Yeah,
at
it's
the end.
revealed later. Yeah.
Yeah, I like movies with narrators. Like
It helps it.
like the Wizard from Conan. And, stuff like that. Same kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
dig
to
it.
tell you a story.
The
This
opening.
is of this wild, crazy man I met when I was a child.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But
That's good stuff.
Mhm.
I before, like, I hadn't seen this movie in forever, so I didn't remember much about the narrator or what he said. But at the end of this movie where he was talking about like, and then I went on to become the leader of the Northern Tribe, whatever.
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, I thought for sure that feral kid was Tom Hardy. in Fury Road. And I was like, oh, he grew up and he wanted to be just like Max. So he went off and he became just like Max. And he's like the new Road Warrior. For the longest time, I thought that's what they were doing. And then I rewatched this movie for the podcast and I was like, oh man, my theory was wrong.
Yeah.
I was all bummed out. But I love the opening sequence when they're doing flashback scenes. They showed the scene with the van toppling through the street. They showed all the crazy, the ones where his eyes bug out. They showed that. There was like a nuclear holocaust that happened. It was,
They set it up very well.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It's like you absolutely did not have to watch the first movie.
And also, this movie's so influential. It's kind of like when you think of a nuclear post-apocalypse, this is the movie that sets the images in your mind. And this had like a big influence on like the Fallout games.
Oh yeah.
And anytime you see like roving bands in a post-apocalyptic, like roving gangs, like the look of the Marauders in this movie is what inspires it. Like this movie inspired so many knockoffs in the 80s. It was crazy.
Can we real quick just talk about the outfits in this movie?
Yes.
What's wrong with them?
What do you mean? What's wrong with them?
They're incredible.
No.
They're wearing half football uniform padding
For protection.
and assless leather chaps.
So what?
In the desert.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys
what is
seen
your deal?
Weird Science?
Long time ago.
What's going on with this movie?
You know that the biker in this, the Lord, not Lord Jason
Humongous?
Voorhees,
Wes. His name is
Wes.
the dude with the
is-
hockey mask on?
No, the other one.
Oh, the Mohawk
is
dude.
the biker guy in Weird Science that comes crashing through the glass, and he's reprising this character.
But,
Oh, wow.
But to answer your question, Alex, so like in this world where like there are no like real like, manufacturing bases, like you're not kind of growing herds to like, collect their wool and make clothes. They have to scavenge for stuff to wear. And so like what's going to survive? It's going to be leather and it's going to be like football equipment and stuff like that.
Listen, man.
Made from plastic.
When the apocalypse hasn't, when the apocalypse has, God damn it.
When the apocalypse happens,
When the apocalypse happens,
Yeah.
the first place I'm going is Dick's Sporting Goods. I'm going to Dick's,
Bro.
and I'm buying a fucking bat. I'm getting some badass black shoulder pads,
Dude,
I'm gonna get
listen.
some
you
fucking.
should probably stock up on
For-
bats now.
Yeah,
I
it-
just have to call out the ridiculous and then we can get over it. We can move on and talk about how awesome this movie is. But the ridiculous
getting
point
a
of this is
fucking sick-ass
the
mohawk.
main bad guy is wearing leather straps
Yeah.
with a metal
Yeah,
crotch
he listens to a lot of Judas Priest. Okay,
and a hockey mask. So there's no armor. There's no
he doesn't,
practical.
He doesn't need armor because he is who he is.
He's Jason Voorhees.
Lord Humongous doesn't need no armor.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
He's going to sit up there on his
And then
thing,
not even-
and he's going to talk into his microphone.
Not even to talk about the idea
just-
that gasoline is this like ultra precious thing that
Yeah.
everybody needs because there's so little of it, but they're all driving giant freaking V8 vehicles that are completely not
Yeah, it
aerodynamic.
doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't
at all.
make any sense
Listen,
whatsoever.
All right, listen.
I just need to put that out there.
You're crazy.
Why?
It's awesome.
Why do you need that?
Because I'm okay with it not making any sense because the movie's so much fun. But if you were really going to break it down and be a salty nerd about it, you're like, none of this
No.
shit makes any sense.
It absolutely makes sense because that's just the way it is. I am absolutely going to be running around in fucking shoulder pads after the apocalypse. It's going to happen. It's going to have fucking
Sure.
skulls and metal plates.
Vader's going to be in his
spikes.
assless chaps.
Assless chaps.
Yeah.
Dude, the dude's wearing assless chaps.
Well, whatever.
This guy, as soon
And
as the
he's-
apocalypse hits, this guy's gonna like fucking kick in my front
know
door
what?
and be like, "Give me the wig!"
and you're gonna. I'm gonna make you my little blonde wig, little.
Channing Tatum sidekick.
No,
he's gonna come in. He's like, Kanish, I challenge you to home gang. I'm
No.
taking your woman.
I'm gonna make Alex my twink, and he's gonna run around on my bike for me.
Oh my god, I love that so much.
You know what? He's like, listen, bitch, you're coming with me.
Get on the back.
And Jude's gonna be fucking running around with a collar around her neck on a chain, and on the other sidecar.
And I'm going to be tossing around boomerangs.
It's right. It's gonna be great.
Katie's just gonna be like standing there, like, "I used to be my woman." I got.
He's gonna be the narrator.
We're gonna be the salty.
Yeah, he'll be the fucking narrator.
It's
And
gonna
be
be
like,
the salty
"Once
nerd
upon
gang
a
of a
time, we had a
wasteland,
life.
God, dude.
and we're gonna live inside Hoover Dam.
We used to just all work together, and then Vader had to come in and dominate the world."
my hockey mask.
Vader's really hoping for World War III.
Oh,
right now.
Oh my god, he's living for it.
Listen to me.
He hates his job so much. It's what he's living for, honestly.
This movie came out when I was 11, 12 years old.
Oh my
okay?
god, this was formative for you.
It was formative. Oh my God. So I had a bunch of friends. There's probably 15 of us kids that kind of like lived down there, and we all had these weird little like caves and forts and tree houses and shit. And we dressed up like this. We dressed up like warriors of the wasteland, and we had fucking wars. I had a go-kart, guy. I had a go-kart that I wired like pieces of roofing and shit to, and steel and spikes and stuff coming out of it. It was awesome. And we had wars. We led battles on our riverbank of just, you know, and we all played like we were road warriors, and it was amazing. And it was so much fun. And it was just formative. That's a good word for it, you know, and we had shoulder pads and stuff, and it was just a cool movie.
This movie was hugely influential, not just, you know, the way that this movie influenced Hollywood and how action scenes were shot and stuff like that. The whole kind of vision of this post-apocalyptic future basically like set the stage for all of the future dystopian post-apocalyptic stuff to come. Like, it can't be understated how important this movie was. And for the longest time, this was the best Mad Max movie. And it was the movie that George Miller and Mel Gibson both felt best embodied the franchise. And it's kind of funny because, like, if you look at where they shot it, so they shot it out in the middle of the Australian outback, out in the middle of nowhere. But as kind of like hot and dusty as it looks on film, it was actually like super cold when they were shooting it. And the guy who plays Wes, the main, or Wes, the main kind of like henchman in the movie, you know, he's wearing these buttless chaps, and Mel Gibson used to call him.
I'm gonna get you some.
Mel Gibson.
I'm gonna get all of you some.
Okay. Mel Gibson used to call Wes the barometer bum because when his exposed ass turned purple, it was so cold that they had to like stop production. Oh my God. So everyone was always looking at the guy's ass, not to look at his ass, but to see like how cold it was getting.
Oh my God.
So that they knew when to take a break.
God dang it, this movie's so ridiculous.
I had a great time with it.
It's a blast.
And this was done without any CGI.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff is practical effects.
That's what I love about all these movies.
These
There's
were
a lot of CGI in them.
The absolutely ludicrous cars and like buggies that they come up with when they're driving around this desert. I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, it looks like it's held together by freaking bubble gum and shoestring. Like, just like, let's just strap some weird shit to a buggy, put a V8 on it.
And the amount of gasoline wasted in
Oh
this
my God,
movie.
So, like,
dude, thank
Fossil
you.
fuels.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really appreciate about this movie is how well it gets set up. And they do it right from the get-go. You know, some time has passed since the first movie. I don't know. In my head canon, I want to say 5 years.
Well, he's got a gray patch in his hair now.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute.
But the very first scene of this thing is Max hauling ass through the desert, and he's being chased by the gang. You know, and they have the wreck at the truck. But you know some shit's going on, because the first thing he does, he doesn't really care about the guy up there with the gun pointed at him up on top of the hill. He starts saving that gas. He gets a Frisbee, a helmet, something, anything that he can find at that wreck.
Yeah, to save
the gasoline that's falling out of that dune buggy that just wrecked. And it was very
it sets up how
it sets up the world very well.
Yeah, the interesting thing about George Miller's directing style is he directs these movies like he would a silent film. Like I think Max has a total of like 16 lines in the entire movie. There's not a lot of dialogue in these films. It's all visual storytelling, and a lot of it's just kind of like Vader said, it's like if you're paying attention to the movie, you're understanding what's being communicated to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can't get over how freaking cool everything is. It's like these vehicles that they're driving through the desert. One thing I didn't remember about these movies, 'cause it's been a minute since I've seen them, is how little Max actually gets to drive his own car.
Yeah.
Like that actually,
it's very little.
Like the further into this series that we got, I became annoyed. I was like, God damn it, get in the goddamn car and do something cool. Like
gasoline is not very prevalent.
Like he sets up the whole movie.
He does not have a full tank.
The whole movie is so set up that he's like, I'm going to do this favor for these people, and I'm going to go, and then they're going to, in return, they're going to give me as much fuel as I can carry. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to go drive off. He works his way through. He trudges through this movie to accomplish that.
He's even modified his car to have two gas tanks.
Yeah, he's got
gas
tanks in the back. He's like, I've got this set. I know what I'm doing. Here's my mission. The minute he gets in his car and actually accomplishes what he set out to do at the beginning of the movie, 5 minutes later, he gets freaking completely destroyed by this biker gang. Oh, yeah. And I was like, God damn it, man. That's the nice ass car.
I know. There goes the Interceptor. Damn it.
Shit.
But
it was so frustrating.
I don't know. There's so many iconic just characters and just cool shit in this movie. I mean, even his sidekick, or is he? It's not really a sidekick.
The pilot.
The pilot, the helicopter.
That
dude.
dude's weird.
He's a goofy dude, but just the way
He
was
reminds me of
introduced.
Taggart from Eureka.
Yeah.
He actually, Vader, do you remember when we reviewed Doll Man? He was the floating head in Doll Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
god!
This dude's Star Wars episode 3, that dude with the red eyes, and he's like the big tall dude. He walks up to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
That's him.
He was also in Lord of the Rings.
He's
Is he in Lord of the Rings
He's
too?
in everything.
Yeah, he's probably
he was
one
a
of those.
goblin.
He's probably one of those character type actors, like the guy from Star Trek,
Like Doug Jones.
Like Doug Jones.
Yeah.
Got that same kind of like tall,
Yeah.
lanky, goofy look.
Yeah, you can make him look real weird if you put some
Yeah,
alien makeup
yeah.
on him. Yeah, for sure. He's weird, but I love his stupid little helicopter.
Yeah.
That
It's
thing.
a gyrocopter.
It's just
It is
just
a
a seat.
gyrocopter.
It's just a seat with a little propeller. on the
Well,
top.
you know why he has that gyrocopter is basically George Miller wanted to do like aerial photography in this movie, and the only way that he could convince the studio to give him a helicopter to film in is saying like, oh well, we have this guy who's flying above the action, and we need to be able to like show him. And
Those
so,
are
like,
some of the best scenes in the movie.
He's like, you know what this movie needs?
A helicopter.
Needs a helicopter.
yeah, and so like that he wrote that in specifically so he could convince the studio to pony up money for a helicopter.
Nice, clever, very clever.
In fact, there's a scene where like Mel Gibson is being kind of like airlifted by the gyrocopter back to the oil refinery, and the shots like looking down at Mel Gibson, you can like see like they're like above the ground and it's moving, and I think nowadays they do that on like green screen or like digital like replacement and stuff like that, but in that day and age, like they literally put Mel Gibson on a board sticking out of a helicopter and just filmed him as he was like hanging off this helicopter.
Yeah.
And it looked
Yes.
great.
It looks great.
It looks great.
I love it.
And you can tell it's not CGI, and that's what's cool about it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is so like we talked about the lack of safety standards in the first Mad Max movie. Again, this movie was made in like 1982.
It was 1980.
This came out in 81.
Yeah.
So it had to
Okay,
have been filmed in
so-
80.
So it was filmed in 80. Again, no safety standards whatsoever. And when they were doing the climactic truck flip at the end, when Mad Max is driving this like huge like tanker truck, and it flips over and skids and comes to a stop eventually, they were so convinced that the stunt driver was going to be injured that like they made him fast for like 24 hours ahead of time in case he had to be rushed to surgery.
Oh, God.
Prior to the stunt.
Prior to the stunt, like everyone was like, "This guy's gonna die."
So, all right.
But shoot it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Okay, are you cool with this?
But
Are you ready-
George
ready
Miller,
to go?
he's a surgeon. He's an emergency surgeon.
So here's the funny thing. So like they use like 80 cars in this
He
movie.
had his little surgeon's cap on while they were filming.
And so like there were numerous like injuries because of all the stunts they were doing. And because George Miller was a trained physician, he would be the one to patch them up.
Thank you.
That's great.
He's
I'm
over there
sorry,
filming
but
it.
No.
In fact, there's a very famous stunt that went wrong in this movie.
Oh, which one was it?
Where basically this motorcycle like hits something and the stunt guy goes flying head over heels.
Yeah.
Over the thing and he
it's
actually broke
one
his leg.
cut. He does like
Yeah.
the full body flip several times.
So he's going 360 degrees. Like you can see like his legs kind of like at a weird angle because like he broke his leg. And they left it in the movie, but that was actually an accident. Like he was not supposed to like go flying like that, but it looked so good on film. They were like, we're gonna keep it in.
We're using that, mate. That's fucking brilliant.
I can see George Miller right now. He's got the camera. He's like, keep rolling, keep rolling, keep
Yep,
rolling.
yep.
Cut. All right, give me a scalpel. God, that's amazing, man. This movie.
Yeah, I mean, like they played real fast and loose with the safety standards. I think 2 stuntmen got seriously injured on this movie, and there were like a lot of like little like bang ups.
Shit, what about the flamethrower they had? Remember that? Like they freaking sitting on top of there and they were burning
they
people alive.
they really caught him on fire.
Well, obviously they did, but I'm like, what were the safety standards for that? Just wear a sweatshirt, you'll be fine.
Put some of that fire goop on.
I mean, if you
be
can
all
set
right.
a guy on fire in Samurai Cop, I'm sure like Road Warrior was fine.
Oh man, that's crazy. I think my favorite line in this movie is when Mel Gibson finally sits down. He's like,
2 days ago, I saw a vehicle that had hauled that tanker.
For you. Like that when he's just sitting there on the freaking tires and he's just listening to this town of people like panic.
It was like a Quint moment from Jaws where it's like,
Yes.
I'll catch that shock for you.
Yeah, it was. Oh, dude, it was such a good line.
We're
And
gonna need a bigger boat.
I love that accent that he had when he said it. It was just great. It was awesome.
So in the first Mad Max movie, Max actually has a dog. It's a family dog, and you
It's a
kind of
puppy they just got.
You kind of get the sense that that's the same dog in this movie.
No.
Where well, I mean, like, so Mad Max has a dog that he's like traveling with.
That thing was like a chocolate lab in the first one, and it's like a healer in this one.
Okay, fine. Jude, do you want to tell them the story about what actually was the story behind that dog?
So for the filming of this one, they needed a dog for the story because it was in the script.
Right.
And so they just went to like a local shelter, like a dog shelter or like a pound.
Yeah.
And they just like took a dog and
One
they
that was about to be euthanized.
Yeah, they trained it for the film to do all of the stunts, and then one of the cameramen adopted it at the end of the film.
Oh, the blue healer? That dog is cool looking.
I love that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny because the guy who plays the gyro captain, actually, like, he was the dog's favorite, and so like every time he was on set, the dog would go up and try to play with him and stuff like that. Yeah, and
they didn't even give it a name in the movie. It was just
it
dog.
was just dog, yeah, and it's funny because like Jude wasn't paying the closest of attention when the dog got killed.
Oh no.
And so like she
Thankfully.
she missed all the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a great example of like how George Miller doesn't show a lot of violence in his movies,
Yeah.
but he implies it. And so like when you see that scene of like the guy with the crossbow like shooting the dog, you never see the dog get hit or die.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, you're just like devastated.
Well,
at what
Yeah,
you
it's like,
just
oh my
saw.
God, they killed the dog.
Yeah, when you hear it whimper on off screen, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, they just freaking shot the dog. So there was, speaking of like the violence and stuff, there's another scene early on in this movie where the biker gang does something very similar that they did in the first movie where they like chase down that couple in the car. And it's very heavily implied that poor woman gets freaking
raped.
brutally raped. And it was like, you're watching it and Mad
There's
Max.
a lot of rape in the early Mad Max.
Yeah,
movies.
there is.
Weirdly, you guys aren't as traumatized by it as you are by Outlander.
Don't even say that show's name. Anyway,
Outlander.
Stop it.
Outlander.
Why did you say that name? There's it was an interesting way that they did it because they didn't outright show it, but they did a lot. Like they didn't go full like Clockwork Orange. Like that was a horrendous scene. Like I do not like that movie because of that scene. But this one, they are like Mad Max on the
Eyeball
hill.
scene really freaks me out.
Yeah. And he's looking with his binoculars, and then the gyro captain dude pulls out this giant like pirate one-eyed binocular thing.
Such a fun trope.
Such a weird. And he looks. Mad Max looks up at it.
That's not a telescope. This is a
That
telescope.
thing's like 6 feet long. Max looks at him, like grabs it, gives him his binoculars, and then uses the thing to watch it. I'm like, it was such a weird, like, comedic relief to what was happening to what they were
How
watching.
many movies have used that same gag, I wonder?
I
don't
enjoy
know.
the fruition
Lost friends.
of their friendship.
Oh,
From
yeah.
like hostage to like besties.
Yeah.
They kind of did that in Bone Tomahawk, where Matthew Fox had like the German.
Yeah.
Oh
looking
yeah.
device.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm so glad you referenced Bone Tomahawk.
There's, I think Johnny Depp did it in one of the Pirates of the
Pirates
Caribbean.
Yes,
movie.
with Barbosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because Barbosa had a bigger
Yeah.
one, and he looked at it and he stole it.
That's
I'm
totally
sure
the
there's
trope.
other shows
That's
that's been-
weird.
That's funny.
You fucking dudes and your long ass telescopes.
It's a penis.
It's a very
thing.
phallic symbol.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not into it. I'm just saying it's a trope.
All right. Final thoughts. Give it a rating. What's
God, we're
Road Warrior
final
for you,
thoughting
man?
already?
Well, yeah. What you haven't been saying shit. What else
Well,
do you
you
want to
guys
say?
have been talking a lot.
Go for it, bud. It's all yours.
I mean, it's just it's a great movie. I mean, the stunts are amazing. I love the characters. It was very formative to my youth. It's one of the reasons I picked these movies to watch is because I've been wanting to talk about this movie with you guys for a long time. I feel like I feel like it's an important movie in movie history.
Yeah.
For some reason. I don't know why. It feels like it's up there with like movies of that era that were influential as far as for whatever it is that they do. You know, I keep it up there with like the original kind of Star Wars, you know, how George Lucas broke the mold with movies back then.
Really, you put Road Warrior up there with Star Wars.
It's up there, but it's not like a Star Wars movie. I mean, if it is what it is. There's just so much that's fun about these movies. It's like everything from the fashion to humongous out there, you know, the shoulder pads and the hockey mask. And I love the vehicles. The vehicles are amazing. They're just the hodgepodge way they're thrown together, and
Yeah.
the goofy little dune buggies and
The most
trucks and
non
yeah,
gas efficient
yeah.
vehicles ever made.
Yeah, and the stunts are incredible with this thing. You know, it's just, you know, it's just so much about this movie. It's nonstop from the get go, and there's so many cool characters. Even the people in the oil refinery. You know,
I gotta say, I was not annoyed by the kid.
no, the kid's cool. The feral kid.
He doesn't really do much. The only thing he really does is the boomerang trick that one time.
He's got his little tunnel system.
Yeah, and then he buzzes off and just does his own
That
thing.
also reminded me of Six String Samurai when the kid was just like, "Rah."
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
And
that-
it was funny how like the kid kept trying to like stow away with Max, and Max kept kicking him out of his car.
Oh yeah.
I would do the same thing. Screw that feral kid.
You know, it's
I'd rather have a dog.
the last 20 minutes. The big chase scene at the end is absolutely
It's incredible.
bonkers.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and I like the reveal at the end where basically after the tanker flips over,
Mhm.
Mad Max discovers that it was just full of sand and they were just a decoy to allow the other people from the colony to escape. And it was funny when they actually blew up that colony because, you know, in the movie, they basically booby trap the thing so that the marauders can't get the oil. And there's this huge explosion. And the explosion was so big that they had to not only alert the authorities about it, but they had to alert air traffic control to make sure that there
God.
was no one flying overhead when it happened.
That's amazing.
Because you could hear this thing and see it for miles.
Could you
Oh, yeah.
imagine just trying to take a flight in Australia and being like, why are we on fire?
like the
Oh, they're
explosion.
filming Mad Max Part 2.
The explosion was literally so big that they were afraid people might think that they were under attack.
Oh my
You
god.
know,
That's
like
amazing.
a nuke went off or something.
Well, this is the 80s, right?
There's
There's like the,
actually the apocalypse.
yeah, for sure.
The gas wars have begun.
The middle of the freaking Cold War. It's the 80s. They all think Russia's going to nuke them. So yeah.
But like if a plane had been overhead when that explosion went off, the shockwave would have like knocked it out of the air.
What the
Yeah.
hell, dude?
That's wild.
That's so cool.
We
Yeah, so-
crashed a plane, but we've got this great movie.
So they just got on the phone and was like, yeah, Gov, just make sure no one's flying overhead.
All right, Mike. All right. Did you give it a rating?
I don't
Sorry.
5-star?
No, not a 5-star.
Okay.
I'm really picky with those. You know that.
I know.
I'm gonna go.
I thought this would make the cut, though.
What I give? I'm gonna. I give 2.5. I'm gonna go 3.5. 3.5 stars.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
So-
Jude, final thoughts, give it a
Peter
rating.
took my score. So I had the most fun with this. This is so we're going to talk about like all three of the original Mad Max with Mel Gibson, and then we're also going to talk about Fury Road. So I don't think that this is the best of the four movies that we're going to talk about, but for me, this was the most fun. So for me, this was another. This is 3.5, just like V,
Okay.
but it's 3.5 sand tankers and blue healers
Nice.
and souped up cars
Yeah.
out of 5.
Flipped over tankers.
Flipped over tankers, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a great time watching it. The first one, I almost had PTSD because I was like, this movie's fucking bananas. Why do you like this so much? But now I see like when I watched this, I was starting to see like, okay, this is what it
Should have been.
inspired
Yeah.
and what it produced and what it created and what else is there in the universe. So it had like a weird amount of hope for me because I'd never seen any of these before. I had seen like the only thing I had ever seen in the Mad Max universe was the Thunderdome scene in Beyond Thunderdome.
Okay.
And that's what I thought the first one was. So like watching this for the first time, I was like, this is fucking crazy. I don't get it. And now I was like, oh, I'm starting to get it. So it made a lot of sense for me, and it was so much fun.
Nice. Kate, your final thoughts, give it a rating.
Yeah, so like I can't overstate the importance of this movie. Basically, without this movie, we would have never gotten Terminator, because this movie inspired James Cameron in the sense that like it gave him the clear vision of the future post Judgment Day, and that in turn kind of like informed his writing of the Terminator movie. So this was a huge influence on James Cameron, and that brought us the Terminator film. Also, just like visual styles, like George Miller was kind of on the forefront of the music video editing style and just visceral cameras always move in style of action movies. And so like, because of him, we have people like, you know, I hate to say it, but like Zack Snyder or something like
Oh
that.
God, let it go already.
What I'm actually giving like some props here. So
Begrudgingly.
oh yeah, but you know, the influence of this film just in pop culture in general has been like, you know, just incredible. Like I said, like you can't think of a nuclear post-apocalypse without thinking of this movie. And it also put Mel Gibson on the radar of Hollywood. And it was because of this movie that he got cast in Lethal Weapon, and that launched his career and all that good stuff. And it's just it's a very seminal film, I think, in Hollywood history, especially like considering it came out at the dawn of like the golden age of 80s cinema and stuff like that, and was so influential. You know, Lord Humongous was definitely an inspiration for Jason Voorhees going forward. You know, because at this time it was just like, you know, the guy who jumped out of the pond at the end of, you know, Friday the 13th, and then Jason Voorhees got the pillow head, and then, you know, eventually the hockey mask. But this was like the precursor to, I mean, Friday the 13th basically ripped that off. And there's a really
Googling furiously right now.
There's a really funny scene where like in the middle of the movie there's like this like montage where like Lord Humongous is giving this like big speech to rally his troops and stuff like that, and you never hear what he's saying. And they knew that they were never going to actually like give him like a speech because they didn't want to write it. So they just gave him this like children's poem to recite. And so like the actor is just like doing this like, you know, like exaggerated movements and stuff like that, where he's like Mary had a little lamb, you know, type thing. So I always thought that was kind of funny. This movie, you know, like the storyline was a lot easier to follow than the first one. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to see the first movie in order to appreciate this one. And so like, you know, me personally, like for the longest time, this was the best Mad Max movie. And I normally would give it 4 stars just because of all the influences that it had and all that stuff. But you know, upon rewatching, I'm going to have to drop it down to 3 stars, solid 3 stars, because I just think Fury Road is so much better than this movie. So I'm going to give it 3 barometer bums out of 5.
Okay. Barometer bums.
Purple barometer bums. Say that 3 times fast.
No, I'm not going to do that. So I think for sure this is a 3-star movie. It's a ton of fun. I had a blast watching it. The kid, although he could be annoying sometimes, he was in there so little that it didn't bother me all that much, and he didn't do anything super crazy. I had a ton of fun. I don't get where
That's what this movie is.
I don't get where the whole leather assless chap, like freaking gimp suit thing is coming from with the post-apocalyptic stuff. It seems completely
That's just that
irrational.
one dude.
Listen, when the apocalypse hits, we're all going to need to invest in some assless chaps.
Okay, I guess. I don't know.
It's the outfit of the future.
I mean, we could go a mile
According
out.
to every single dystopian film.
Yeah, you got to keep yourself from getting swamp ass in those hot,
Exactly.
hot outbacks.
Yeah. And also you need like the leather to protect you from the elements.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right.